August 5th, 2013 Board of Selectmen's meeting. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The acceptance and correction of the minutes will be postponed till we have a full board. I have one announcement, and it has to deal with tomorrow night's festivities in town. Tomorrow night, the Goffstown Police Department is sponsoring what they call a National Night Out. Come join the Goffstown Police Department in conjunction with the Goffstown Fire Department for a night out. The police department is hosting the second annual Night Out. This is a national or nationwide event that's put on every year to focus on crime and developing community partnerships. We look forward to seeing everybody at this evening Night Out. Make a note, there'll be a change. The location will be 2 of them this year. We're going to have 2 of them in town. The first one is going to be located at 18 Church Street behind Town Hall. And the second one is going to be at the Goffstown Fire Department on Mast Road in Pinardville. So we look forward to seeing the residents there. Highlights will be activities for children. We'll have a touch-a-truck. We'll have live music, food. This is a good chance to meet your neighbors, interact with your police and fire department. And this is also a good chance to see the fire stations firsthand and your police department firsthand, just to see how good or how bad they are. So that's once again tomorrow night. The National Night Out. Please come and join us. We look forward to seeing you there, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much. Next thing on the agenda is public comment. I see nobody here yet for that. We're still a few minutes early. Derek, I think what we'll do is we'll start into the town administrator's report, and we'll go till 6:10, and then we'll kind of bounce back and forth. How's that?
That works fine.
Okay, thank you.
The first item in your packet this evening is the weekly meeting schedule, economic development Wednesday night and Thursday night planning board, and then finally the presentation of the Boston Post cane on Friday. In your consensus folders, you have manifest for the general fund accounts payable in the amount of $1,280,452.38. The general fund payroll and withholding in the amount of $155,207.34. The cable revolving fund payroll and withholding in the amount of $916.72. And then the special detail revolving fund for payroll and withholding in the amounts of $691.47. You have an employee status report for discharge. You have event permits, WZID radio station neighborhood block party on August 13th, Goffstown Public Library, the annual Family Skywatch on August 16th, and then the Police Department National Night Out, again, tomorrow night. That was voted on last week. And then you have the acceptance of easements and temporary construction licenses on Map 4, Lots 87-A and A1, Map 33, Lots 1, 2, and 3, and Map 34, Lots 40 and 43A-1.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept the consensus folder.
A second.
Motion by Nick, seconded by Alan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Catherine, unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next item you have are the assessor's recommendations, a report of timber cut for map 12, lot 2, the current use land use change tax, lien release for map 9, lot 4-53, and then a 2013 tax year abatement for map 15, lot 99.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion we accept the assessor's recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Al, seconded by Nick. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you. The next item you have in your packet on tab 6D, you have a request to copy a video of Pinardville ad hoc committee meetings. According to GTV policies, the Board of Selectmen is the producer of these meetings, and therefore the board would need to authorize the release of the videos to the requester.
Make a motion that we approve the request and authorize the release of the video to the requester.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Nick, seconded by Al. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sue has provided you with a tentative budget presentation schedule. On the 9th of September would be the overview, as well as library and Parks and Rec. The following week, on the 16th, would be Sewer and Public Works. 23rd of September, Police and Fire Departments. And then on September 30th would be Administration and Summary. And she just wanted to know if an invitation to the Budget Committee should be sent out so they can listen to these presentations as well.
I personally would like to see it. How do the rest of the board members?
That's not a bad idea. They should be there.
We've done that traditionally.
Okay.
Sure.
We'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Extend the invitation.
Yep,
Mr. Chair?
sir.
As a reminder, we had talked about getting those budget packets and presentations to the board prior, maybe about a week or two, so that we have time to review them and formulate questions versus the night.
I'll
of the
communicate that to
presentation.
the department heads.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Alan?
No, good.
Thank you.
The next item, you have the boundary line agreement update for 7 Main Street. The surveyor has sent a draft agreement, and you have the revised agreement in your packet. And let's see. If the board has no issues with the drafted agreement, then you can proceed through the statutory process to schedule the agreement for review by Planning Board and Conservation Commission.
I have a question. Should we wait for the entire board on this particular issue? I mean, we can say yes, but I mean, if somebody else has issues, should we wait or should we?
If I remember from the conversation we had discussed this, it was pretty much cut and
Straightforward.
dry, and we had agreed on
Got it.
going forward with this process. We were just waiting for the final.
Looks like he's done his duty, so.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the 4114A process.
I'll second that.
All right. So motion been made by Nick, seconded by Alan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Catherine.
Yes.
Thank you. In tab 6G, you have an update on the process of the finance software and where we are today. I do want to highlight when I prepared this, at the bottom of the first page, it talks about the total personnel hours dedicated townwide. I just want to highlight that is townwide in meetings when we're meeting with the consultant. That does not include the hours that the finance office and IT have put in. The finance office, especially Evelyn Redmond,
Yep.
Linda Moody, and Renee and Dawn have done, Renee Milson and Dawn Bohr have done an extreme amount of work to dovetail that in with their regular duties, as well as the IT staff. And if anyone has any specific questions, I could answer those.
I just have one quick question. Everything is going according to plan?
Yes, I think we were a little aggressive initially. We planned on 3 phases. The first would be financials to go live in October with payroll in January. Following up payroll in January may have been a little bit aggressive. We might push that back.
It's a busy season, too.
Yeah, it's a busy season, and the amount of not only core user training, but getting the training out to the departments. We want to make sure we do it right. So we're still looking at hopefully a go live of October, but we may push the payroll back a little bit to allow for the proper implementation.
Alan, any questions? No?
No, thanks.
Tell them, thank you very much for the support, please.
The next item, you have IMC software update, and there's an email from Chief Sullivan that details that process for your information. And then in tab I, you have a draft ordinance for no parking on west side of Mountain Road between South Mast and Knollcrest. And They wanted to know if you had any suggested changes, or if there are no changes, we could proceed with the 2 public hearing process.
Okay. I was gonna-
Good.
Well, I was going to say, there was just one, when we voted, it was for a no standing, stopping, or parking,
Yes.
not just a no parking.
Okay. So we can,
Just want to make sure, because the police chief did state there was a difference between
The
the
both.
two.
between the 2.
Yes.
Okay, I can work with Carrie and have those changes made. And then would you like us to proceed with the
Yeah,
Public
you know,
hearing.
just change this, man, send it out.
Yeah, also
Okay.
changes have been made. Yeah. We'll hold off right
Yeah,
there. We'll go
absolutely.
into the 6:10 public comments. I see no one here for the public comment. I believe the 2 members in the audience are here for meetings. Remember, we're here till roughly 8 o'clock supposedly. We have a second public comment scheduled in this evening. If you're interested in joining us, please come on down and join us. We'd be glad to hear from you, and we'll go from there. Yeah,
Let's let Derek finish.
yeah, well, go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
The last item I have is on Friday, we received the bid results that the SAU put out. Annually, they advertise for paper, oil, and propane bids that is available to the town. And I would seek your approval to move forward with the paper, the oil, and propane as detailed. The paper averages out to $2.55 per ream. The oil would be a fixed price of $3.19.5, and propane, and that's with Fuller Oil, and propane would be a fixed price of $1.51 per gallon with Eastern Propane.
either board member have any questions?
Oh, I'm good.
Eric, do you need a motion, or we also?
I would appreciate a motion on
Yeah.
that one, yes.
I'll make a motion that we go for the SAU bid results that have been forwarded to us on paper, oil, and propane, as seen on the bid, on the paper for us.
I'll second that, yeah, sorry.
Seconded by Nick, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And those are the only items I had for you this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Scott, are you ready?
Sure.
Come on up and join us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
You're welcome.
As I'm sure you know, I've been working on a evaluation update. The town is required to reassess properties at least every 5 years. We're pretty much in the habit of doing it more often than that. But 2013 is a review year by the Department of Revenue Administration. They are required to review every town at least every 5 years. The last time they did it was 2008. Prior to that was 2003. So this is our review year for the Department of Revenue. So in preparation for that, I have done an evaluation update. The Department of Revenue does not just review assessments. They also review our assessing practices. They review our elderly exemptions, our credits, our current use. We have established an ongoing process for most of these others that takes care of all of the requirements that we need to keep up to date with what the DRA is looking for. The reassessment, obviously that has to be done, again, at least every 5 years. Last time we did an update was in 2011. We are doing one again this year to keep up to date. One of the reasons that I have been recommending to the board to do periodic updates is so that we don't get behind in the market. Typically what happens if you wait every 5 years and then you're in a whether it's a volatile market or whether it's an aggressive market and values are going up significantly or down significantly, if you wait 5 years, you get sticker shock. You'll have situations where a group of properties has increased substantially and if you wait 5 years, they get a huge impact in that 5th year. The reverse of that is if properties are going down in comparison to the rest of the town, if you wait 5 years, in those preceding years, they're paying more than they should be. So if you keep it up to date, like we have been, it avoids those issues. So as I said, I have been preparing this. I've updated all values as of April 1st, 2013. These values have been posted on the website. They're in 2 different places on the website. One is just a list which shows the 2012 value and the new proposed value. That list can also be found upstairs in the assessing office on the counter. It is also on the Vision Online data. That was updated today. So it is there as well. On the Vision, you cannot see the previous years. I don't think you can. I don't remember if the 2012 is on there. I don't think it is, but you can go to the list. It's listed by street, and you can find that information. And obviously, anybody can call and talk to Mary or talk to me, and we can give that information. What I have given you is a number of different handouts here, just to give you a sense of what I've been doing and what I'm looking at when I'm doing an update. The first page is just a total value of the town as of, well, actually, this was as of August 1st. I printed this particular sheet out on Thursday, and I updated the values online on Friday, is when I put that information in there. And I've written down at the bottom, you can see I deducted out $152 million. That's the exempt properties in town. That's town hall, churches, some of the school buildings up at St. A's. So that's exempt value. So the total taxable value of the town is $1,337,000,000 plus change. That's a decrease from last year of about 0.5%. Now last year, for the 2012 tax year, we had a assessment to sales ratio of 1.016. And essentially what that means is that on average our typical sale was 1.6% less than the actual assessment. In other words, our assessments were more than actual selling prices or market value, which is what the selling prices are representing. So we did expect a slight decrease. We have had new construction. We are starting to see a stabilization of the market. So, the 0.5% decrease is about what I expected. This doesn't mean that every single property in town went down by 0.5%. As with any revaluation or any update of value, some properties went down more than that, some stayed about the same, and some went up. Anytime you do an update of value, there's going to be a shifting based on what I'm going to be showing you and some of what the sales are showing. What the market is showing is the trend in the market right now. So if you flip this page and you go to the first sheet, or the second page that I have there, this is a overall sales ratio study. Now, a sales ratio study essentially looks at groups of sales ratios, and the sales ratio is determined, it's called an assessment to sales ratio, and it's determined by taking the actual assessment of the property divided by the sales price. What a sales ratio study does is it uses statistical measures to analyze that and to come up with some conclusions based on that. What this first sheet is the before the update values. So essentially this is taking the values before I made any changes and looking at the sales prices just to get a sense of my starting point of where I was. If you look at these numbers are not that bad. Based on the before numbers, we were at 100% of value, and we had a coefficient of dispersion, which I'll explain in a minute, of 7.43%. These are very acceptable numbers. These would pass any review by the Department of Revenue. They're not perfect, though, and we never will get to perfect, but there can be improvements made on this. The coefficient of dispersion is essentially a quality rating. What it does is it tells us what the average difference is on a typical sale. In other words, when I have a coefficient of dispersion, or a COD, of 7.43%, it's telling me that a typical sale ratio is 7.43% plus or minus the average, which was 100. So typically, when you have a COD of 7, Most of your sales ratios are between 93% and 107%. Okay? The Department of Revenue requires that we have a COD of 20% or less. I will tell you right now, in a town of this size, if I had anything near to a 20% or less, I would be very disappointed in myself. This is a large enough town, we have enough sales that I expect our ratio to be 10% or less. For the most part, we have been. I think one year that I've been here, we were right around 10%, but we usually are below 10%. But that doesn't mean it can't be improved upon. If you look at some of the other numbers, if you look at, again, looking at the bottom row, and you look at the mean ratio and the weighted average, these are typically not measures that they are used, but they're not the main ones. The median ratio is the main measure that's used. But these are looked at to help you decide if there's equity within groups. Typically, your mean ratio and your weighted average are affected by the outliers. So if you have a wide dispersion between these two, it's telling you that there's some problems within your group and you need to fine-tune that. Now, if you look to the next page, this is after the update. So these are the values that I have that are now on the books. As you can see, we're still at a median ratio of 1. That hasn't changed. But the COD has gone down. And if you look at the range from the mean ratio to the weighted average, we're at 1.01 to 99. That's a much tighter range. It means that we have brought those values into a more equitable situation. Okay? Flipping to the next page, what I've started to do here is showing you different strata. Okay? The first one was by time. It was mostly a time analysis, just to give you an indication of, or to me, an indication of our values changing over time. For the most part, they have not been. We've been a very stable market for the last year and a half or so. We are starting to see an increase right now, but that's not a part of my analysis. That will be for next year. The second page is what I've done. This is a very simple analysis. All this does is it groups the properties by sales price. And it takes the lowest sales prices and groups them into one group, and then it takes the highest price properties and groups them into another group. What this does, it helps me determine if there's equity between values of properties, my low-end properties and my high-end properties. As you can see here, if you look at the mean ratio of the lower price properties, we were at 1.06, and our higher price properties, we were 0.99. Okay, right off the bat, this is telling me, okay, I've got some issues here. This is where my problem is I don't have, I have a regressive situation where my lower priced properties are being assessed at a higher ratio than my higher priced. So that's something I needed to work on a little bit. Again, going to the next page, you can see I've tightened this a little bit. Not as much as I would like. You see, if you look at the mean, we're at a 1.03 and a 0.99. But if you look at the median between the different groups, we're only about a 1% difference. One of the reasons you're usually going to see the mean ratio at greater than 1 is because we have a number of manufactured homes in the town. They're very volatile. They're very difficult to bring at or under 100% because they're all over the place. And that's one of the reasons that you're seeing this high mean ratio here.
All right. Questions? When you talk about improving on that, what is it that you can do to improve?
Well,
in any one of those?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to get into next.
Okay.
Is what I do is I start to look at, as I go down, I break it out into different categories. Okay, this is a very broad strata that I'm looking at here.
Mm-hmm.
And as I go through these sheets, I'll show you how I break it down into even smaller ones, so I can see, okay, where are the problems and where are the issues I have to look at. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this next page, but what this is part of my land analysis. In any update I do for a mass appraisal, this is what I do. It's called mass appraisal. The first thing I look at is land. For this update, I did not change my land values at all. I left them exactly the same. I changed some of my neighborhood factors, but my base land values I left the same. This was part of this analysis showing that these are showing the land prices of single-family homes. Right? And when I say land prices of single-family homes, what I'm doing is what is called a land residual. In other words, I take a selling price of a home of $200,000. I determine that the building's worth $125,000. My land residual is $75,000. 200,000 minus 125, that's my land residual. I don't have enough vacant land sales to do that type of analysis for this time frame. So this is the analysis I look at. The formula that you see there is basically taken right from that best fit linear line curve. The formula that I used for land values for the first acre of land, my base, is 55 cents times the square footage plus $60,000. This is almost identical to that. So this confirmed what I'm currently using, so I didn't change my base land, I left it alone. All right.
Scott, if I could just ask,
Sure.
each of those points, is that a subject property that you looked at?
Each of those points is an actual sale.
It's an actual sale.
Yeah, it's an actual, well, that's the land value from an actual
From
sale.
an actual, right, minus the building value.
Yeah. And again, this is for this particular one I'm showing you here. This is only for parcels that have 1 acre of land or less. Okay, I have other analysis that have larger lots. Don't really need to get into those today. All right, now going to the next page, here's where I start to break down some of the strata. This particular breakdown is by year built of single-family homes only. I'm only looking at single-family homes. I'm not looking at any other type of property in this particular analysis here. And basically you can see on the left, I've broken it down by properties built prior to 1900, 1900 to 1930, and so on. What this is used for is to help me give me a sense of how my depreciation is working. All right, the essential approach to value we use is very similar to a cost approach. It's called a market cost approach because it uses market information to adjust my cost approach. So we do use depreciation. The assumption is that an older building will sell for less than a newer building. And it's typically the market bears that out. By breaking it down this way, I'm looking at my depreciation to see if there's areas where I need to make some adjustments. So if you look at, just to look at one group, you look at the 1900 to 1930 homes, there was 9 sales there, and it had a median ratio of 1.05. Okay? What I'm looking for is to be as close as I can to 100%. All right? This is an indication that that group of properties, I need to be making some adjustments. So in my depreciation schedules for those properties, I had some minor increases in depreciation. An increase in depreciation decreases the value. I also made some adjustments pretty much from 1960 up to about 1985 were the areas that I needed to make some adjustments on my depreciation. And again, these are not huge adjustments. They're minor, just again to bring it in line with what the sales are showing me. So this is the before update on this page. If you flip it, now you can see the after the update. And again, looking at the median ratio, whereas before we had a range of 0.98 to 1.05, now our range is 0.99 to 1.01. Okay, again, bringing that group of properties into more alignment with what the sales are actually showing. The next group is, again, more of a land analysis. Again, not messing with the base land values, but looking at different areas. This has all the different neighborhoods we have in town. Typically, if I have 5 or less sales, I'm not going to put much weight on that particular group. So the ones that I've highlighted are the ones where I had sufficient sales to draw some conclusions from. These are land factors that are, the way land factors work, it's like a multiplier. So, you know, for one area, I forget what some of my multipliers, but I think my S3 is a 1.01. So it basically takes the land value and it only affects the land value. This doesn't affect the building value at all. Okay, it's just an adjustment to adjust for location. You know, we've all heard the term, you know, location, location. It's true. Your better neighborhoods are going to have a higher factor. Your average neighborhoods will have a lower factor. All right. So again, looking at this, I did make some adjustments to my neighborhood factors. And again, looking at the next page, you can see I brought those more in line. There are still some outliers here. You're going to see, just looking at like P4, there's only one sale there. I'm at .92. I'm not going to make an adjustment to an area just because of one sale. All right. Typically, I need more than that to make some adjustments. The next page looks at, I've added a few sales here. This is single-family homes, 2 families, and 3 families. In this particular analysis, I'm looking at property types, ranches, colonials, capes, just to see if, again, the style is having some impact, and the price I have per square foot on a particular style needs some adjustments. For the most part, these were pretty much in line. I did make some minor adjustments. I think my modern contemporaries, I had to make a couple minor adjustments. My raised ranches, I made some adjustments, and my family conversions. This doesn't always mean that those particular properties have dropped in value. It may mean that the values I used last time were a little higher. You know, this is just bringing things into line, again, fine-tuning it based on the market information I have. And again, looking to the next page, you can see I've now brought that further in line. Some of these adjustments, you know, also are coming from what I did with depreciation, as well as what I did to the styles as well. All right, and then the last two, I won't spend a lot of time on these, but you know, I don't want you to think that I just looked at residential properties. I looked at everything. My residential condos, the numbers were pretty good. I was 101% with a COD of 5.49%. Again, I made some minor adjustments, mostly within complexes, and I brought my numbers a little better, 100% now with a COD of 3.97. And then the last page is manufactured homes. I only have one here because I did not make any adjustments to manufactured homes at all. I left them alone. This is the first year, I think, since I've been here, which I haven't adjusted my mobile homes or my manufactured homes. I have lowered the values on manufactured homes every year since I've been here because the market for manufactured homes has been declining significantly. I've seen in the last year and a half, all of a sudden it has stopped, and they're starting to come back. If you look at this particular group here, you can see in the first half of 2012, with 6 sales, we had a median ratio of 1.23. That means that the average sale at that point was 23% less than the actual assessment. But then if you look at the second half of 2012, with 11 sales, we're at 101. It's not that I made any adjustments. You know, that's nothing I did. It's just that the market has changed. They've come back, and then for the 5 sales in 2013, we're at 100%. So I left the manufactured homes alone. Those values are identical. There might have been some minor adjustments because of depreciation, but for the most part, I think they stayed about the same.
If you were to adjust that, Scott, would that bring your numbers a little bit better in line, or how would that make it worse?
They'd be about the same.
Be about the same.
Yeah, because it's the sales themselves that are so volatile in the case of manufactured homes. Okay. So any adjustment, yes, it may change my ratio. I might get it down to a 98 or a 99, or I may even be able to get it below, you know, below what I have at 1.03. The coefficient of dispersion is going to stay the same. Okay, because again, it's the sales themselves that make manufactured homes so difficult. Okay, so that's what I have for handouts to go over. I have a couple of little things to go over, but before I do that, are there any questions on what I've shown you on this so far? Yes, sir.
Nick started to ask the question on the before update 1011 to 613 summary of sales price half. How do we, you were, I think, starting to go down the path of correcting or making corrections. How do we correct it or make it so that it's better for everybody? Is there any specific avenues that we need to go down, or?
Well, the avenue I did go down was by adjusting the different strata, by adjusting the depreciation, okay, by adjusting the property types, by adjusting the neighborhood. Okay. That's the approach to get to those better numbers. Okay. So if you're looking at the before and after, the before is what it used to be. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have, for the most part, I've already gone down that avenue and made those adjustments. It's still not perfect, and it never will be.
Oh, because the market has a lot to do with that as well, correct?
Correct. I mean, you know, you look at a sale, there's the number of people's in this room, you put us all, and we all say, you're gonna buy this building. Well, we're all gonna pay a different price for that exact same building, okay? What I'm doing is looking at the most likely price. So if all of us, make an offer on a building, and that is between $190,000 and $210,000, well, that property's worth $200,000. I mean, that's a very quick and down and dirty way of how I'm doing it. But there's no way that you're ever going to see a COD of zero. It cannot happen. If you do, it's an indication that I'm playing some games, which I will not do. Because you're not going to hit every sales price on the nose. Does that answer your question, or?
It did. No.
Okay. All right. So I've put these values online. Trying to give taxpayers, property owners, a chance to come in and talk to me. Essentially, I'm hoping to give them a month so that they can review the numbers, they can go on to Vision, they can go on to my sheet. Any questions, I encourage property owners, please, give me a call, come in, be glad to talk to you. If I need to go out and look at properties, that's also what I'm going to be doing in the next month. I made an appointment today to go out and look at a property that we haven't been into in a number of years. So, to look at that and make it correct. If a property's data on its property record card is not correct, the value is not going to be correct. And the only way to make it correct is
Go out and get a first-hand look at it.
to go out and look at it. I can do some of it by talking to people, but still, the best bet is for me to go out and look at it. Because one of some of the things that play a large impact on value is condition of a property. Someone can tell me up and down what the condition of their property is, but without me looking at it, I'm not going to be able to judge that. Whether that's an average property, whether it's good, whether it's fair. Now, these are different condition factors that I use, and I rate the properties. Especially in the type of market we've been having, where it has been a buyer's market. Your better quality and your better condition properties are selling very well. Your properties that are in poorer condition, those are the ones that are having some issues and tend to be near the lower end. So those are the ones I really need to look at if there's some issues there. One of the things that I am requesting from you today is for you to sign an MS1 extension form.
It was in the consensus folder.
And the reason, I'm only asking for a 10-day extension. Typically, the MS1 needs to be signed on September 1st. I would like to give people at least 1 month. This will give them a chance to come in. Also, the first, I think because of the timing, I would have to have it on the MS1 to you by like the 23rd, because Monday is September 1st is a Monday. So to get it done by September 1st, I would have to have it a week earlier than that. So I'm asking for an extension till September 10th. That's a Tuesday. That way you can sign it on the 9th, and then I can get it to the DRA on Tuesday, the September 10th.
Very good.
That's all I have.
And I'd say that was in your signature folder, but I did not include, it wasn't included in the...
I remember seeing it, yeah.
It wasn't in the consensus folder, so if you could do a motion on that so you can sign it.
Motion to authorize our tax assessor to apply for an extension
I'll
for
second
the
the motion.
MS1.
Motion made by Nick, seconded by Alan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Is that something that they routinely will grant?
Yeah, it's almost a rubber stamp. As long as you're not asking for a significant extension. Typically if it's 30 days or less, they just, I know I could get a 30-day extension. I need the couple of extra days, but I want to get it in a timely fashion so we don't postpone our setting of the tax rate. A 10-day extension will not interfere with our typical setting of the tax rate.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you very much.
I don't think a lot of people realize the complexity of setting the values and
even
the
keel.
rates.
Oh, one other thing. I do, as part of this update, I will be working on a manual. I did one for 2008. I have one for 2011. I'll have to be doing one for this year. It is my intention to have that available by December 1st. By the rules of the DRA, I do have until December 1st to get that done. I'll try to get it done before that. I like to have it done by the time we set out the tax bills. I don't know if I will. It's a pretty extensive manual, but at the very least, I'll have it done by December 1st.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
thank you.
Carl, I believe you're next. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry we're running a little late.
That's all right. At long last, you have our draft comment letter for the stormwater permit. That letter is due August 15th. I don't know what the board's pleasure is. It's pretty long. There's a lot in there, so going comment by comment probably doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess I could just update you first with a little bit of background. You should also have in the non-public section of your information tonight a draft letter that the attorneys, a technical comment letter and a legal comment letter. We still have not actually signed any kind of an agreement. They got our conditions that Attorney Drescher had kind of placed on us signing an agreement. They assured me that was going to be just fine, and I think what's going to happen is when they're all said and done, they'll just bill us for our share without us committing to anything up front. So I don't see personally a problem with that as long as we get the letter completed. As you can see in the opening paragraphs that I wrote, since this draft permit, the reality of it started to fill in, we have spent a considerable amount of time meeting with New Hampshire DES. There's a couple of reasons why we've been meeting with New Hampshire DES. One, during an open comment period, EPA is not really allowed, their rules do not allow them to engage in a two-way dialogue with the permittees. So they really have been somewhat off limits for us to engage in conversation with. DES partners with EPA on these permits. They're kind of a co-permittee, even though EPA is the primary permitting authority. The state has the ability to add additional requirements on top of EPA's requirements. And what we discovered as we went through the draft permit is the EPA permit itself is not really, I don't want to say it's not the onerous part of the process, because it is, but a lot of it is boilerplate right out of the Clean Water Act. Unfortunately, the hammer that affects us from a resource and financial perspective are the water quality standards, the impaired waters, and the TMDLs, all of which are assessed and established by New Hampshire DES. So though EPA is the permitting authority giving us a stormwater permit, it's really all of the factors that fall into the responsibility under the Clean Water Act on the states that put us in a position where, like in Goffstown's situation, where most of our discharges are discharging into impaired waterways. DES are the ones that do the sampling. They're the ones that establish the impaired lists. So it was really important. The data is really the critical piece of this. As myself and my colleagues began to meet with EPA, and I think we've had this conversation in the past, obviously we all support clean water. The question is not whether or not we want to do what we can to ensure that our discharges are not contributing to pollution in the water. It simply comes down to a matter of how much can we afford to do and how quickly. You know, it's timing more than anything. Timing and technology. I guess what I can tell you is, by all indication, EPA has heard that message. We have uncovered a lot of things. One, there is a rub between the federal law and our state rules, that the way EPA is interpreting our state rules, they are not allowed to put a long-term compliance schedule. So because of that, everything that we uncover when we start sampling water quality has to be solved in the 5-year permit term of this permit. Everybody understands that we're dealing with hundreds of year-old drainage systems, and trying to get them all cleaned up in 5 years just isn't practical. And, you know, it's bad enough for us. You think of our neighbors to the east, who also have a CSO issue that they're into for $200 million. They've got wastewater treatment plant upgrades that they're into for tens of millions of dollars, plus this. You know, it's just, there's just no way communities can do it all at once. And EPA gets that. The regional administrator assured us at a meeting that they understand that, and I know that the state DES is already working on ways, as soon as the legislature is back, we'll be in and try to get that solved, so that when the permit does come out, hopefully that won't be an issue. You can see in that letter the common theme that runs throughout it is that we really need to assess the data. We have to make sure, we owe it to the taxpayers to make sure that what we're looking at is scientifically sound. When we quickly started looking at Goffstown data, and Goffstown wasn't unique, every town that looked at the data found the same thing. Unfortunately, when DES, you know, they've got volunteer groups doing sampling, they've got, you know, wastewater treatment plants that are sampling, they've got river associations sampling, they've got their own interns, their own staff, hundreds of thousands of data points every year pouring into their database. Back in 2001, they adopted a guidance document called a CALM. It's a Condition Assessment and Listing Methodology. And it was reviewed by EPA, went out to public comment, but of course in 2001 nobody really paid too close attention to what it was. And unfortunately what they defined in that document was, if they found so much as one data point that exceeded groundwater quality standards, it showed up as an impaired water. So when I look, just to give you an idea of how that impacts us, Harry Brook showed up as a bacteria-impaired water. They had 4 samples, all taken, you know, a month after the Mother's Day flood. No other data at all. We've gone out, we've sampled Harry Brook. DES has gone out and sampled Harry Brook. My guess is that that's going to drop right off the listing. And same thing, you know, investigating complaints around a pig farm. They have a lot of data right around a pig farm. EPA's been involved in cleaning that up. You step away from the pig farm, Catamount Brook seems fine. So, you know, we need to verify before we launch into spending all kinds of money to deal with impairments that may or may not even be there. And I think everybody agrees with that. So we've really asked to extend those timelines. It doesn't mean we can walk away. I mean, we're going to have to assist, because obviously the state doesn't have any resources, extra resources either, to be chasing all of these things. So we're going to be involved in sampling. We're going to be involved in analyzing data, hopefully over a couple of years. And then from there, we'll develop, okay, what are our priorities and what really needs to be cleaned up. One of the other themes, and I'm not sure it'll ever go anywhere in good old Yankee, New Hampshire, but the bacteria TMDL in the Piscataquag River, by all accounts, over this 5-year permit term, will literally cost the town of Goffstown hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when I look at our data in the Piscataquag River, it is marginally impaired. Is it impaired? Yeah. There's probably 5 or 6 samples over the last 10 years that have exceeded. We had one this summer. It exceeded beach standards, so we had to close Glen Lake Beach. The very next day we went out, and it was well below the standard. So it's not like we have some raging impairment.
The question, that could come from upstream also. I mean, it's not necessarily where
come,
we are.
It can come from anywhere.
That's right. I mean, we've got
nature.
Piscataqua River has 3 tributaries coming in here.
Exactly. And that's the challenge with it. Here, you know, here we are spending all this money to clean up the Piscataqua River, until the city deals with their CSOs 2 miles downstream from us. Every time it rains heavy, their sewer system's going to bypass, and they're pouring raw sewage out into the same waterway that we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to clean up. Now, how do we all societally deal with that? I don't know, but it seems crazy to me to chase teaspoons of contaminants when we have major sources of contaminants right within our, close proximity. So those are kind of the themes, and like I said, I'm happy to go through.
You picked out a big one here where they changed from the presumption of, if you're doing everything right, unless shown otherwise, you presume the water is non-contaminated. Well, now they're changing it to the presumed guilty, that unless you prove otherwise, everything is assumed to be
Kind of pointing a gun at you.
And
contaminated.
EPA will tell you that that is mandated language from the Clean Water Act, and it has absolutely no bearing on this permit. So my response is, even if it, the problem with this permit is it's really not just between the community and EPA. We're also subject to third-party lawsuits. So Conservation Law Foundation, anybody else out there, any of the environmental advocate organizations, if they don't feel you're doing your job to meet the permit conditions, they can come at you with a third-party lawsuit. And we spent as much time looking at our exposure in this permit because EPA, the simple fact of the matter is the Clean Water Act is not the appropriate mechanism to try to regulate stormwater. But unfortunately, it's what we've got. In Washington, they're supposedly working on some stormwater rules that would pull it out of the Clean Water Act and kind of create a new, its own thing, which makes a lot more sense. However, in the last 10 years, watching how Washington operates, I have a hard time believing that's going to save us in the next couple of years from seeing this permit. And, we unfortunately have to, EPA, we heard it over and over and over again. You see it in their response to comments. Well, it says that, but that's standard language of the Clean Water Act, and we really have no intention of enforcing that. But like that comment, it's black and white.
Right.
We'll be sitting in a courtroom someday with a judge reading the black and white, and I think we have to protect ourselves on that stuff. And that is throughout the permit. The other big one, which is more on the legal side of things, but I think I might have commented on it. By New Hampshire statute, this permit, and we're going to challenge the legal basis of this, but the way it's written now, this permit imposes the responsibility of everybody discharging into our system onto the town. So if someone is illegally discharging something into our system, first and foremost, we're responsible at point of discharge to EPA. You look at the fines that they can levy on us, it's a federal statute, so you're talking tens of thousands of dollars a day for noncompliance. New Hampshire statute, I think the best we could hope for is $1,000 a day on the worst case scenario, but usually even less. It's hundreds of dollars a day. So, we would be going to somebody presumably that has a very large, expensive problem to fix. Even if they're hostile and we're going after them legally, we're accruing hundreds of dollars a day. All the while, we're on the hook to EPA for, $37,000 a day as that racks up. Untenable situation to put the taxpayers in Goffstown into that position. But unfortunately, the Clean Water Act, that's the way it works, and that may be the way it ends up. So those are, that's the theme of all those comments. Like I said, I'd be happy to go through them if you want to, but there really are, a lot of them are the same sort of theme. They deal with timing. Our intention is, after the comment period closes, I hope to expand our kind of working group that we've had with DES and have EPA join us at the table so we can talk about realistic ways to kind of head the direction they want to head.
Do you think really a lot of this that's in here, a lot of this is going to be enforceable?
Well,
I mean, I'm just, you're talking about state and town, you're talking about government, all,
yeah.
they should play together well, but they don't like to play in a sandbox together.
Well, and and that's the theme that I have adopted in all these conversations is all three of us, all three levels, are serving the same taxpayer.
Yeah.
So we have to work together, and we have to make sure we're getting it
Essentially,
right.
we're paying their tab, and, they gotta
Yeah.
kind of look at us in a different light.
Yeah, and unfortunately, just looking at court cases over the last 10 years, the Clean Water Act is almost ironclad. I mean, if you try to take on EPA over water quality issues, and it's because of the Clean Water Act, very few of those cases win. It has to be on other bases. A lot of the problems are just language. It's the way they've worded things. When you talk to them about their intent, at least they say that wasn't really how they intended it, but that's the way it's worded. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we're going to get something more reasonable that we can work with, that is spread out over time. Trying to see if I missed any of the real big ones.
So essentially, where's this gonna go next? Is it gonna go to the...
Well, at the end of the day, after the dust settled and all the waivers were given, there are 49 MS4 communities in New Hampshire. Some of the new ones were wavered out. On August 15th, presumably they'll receive comments from all 49 of those communities. They're going to receive our legal and technical comments on behalf of our coalition. There is another coalition that was also formed. I know, or I'm pretty sure, DES is going to comment on the permit. And of course, all of the environmental
Right, there's a petition out
organizations.
now, isn't there?
Well, and let me hit that real quick afterwards, but basically what EPA needs to do is they need to address each and every comment they receive. So, you saw the legal technical comments. That's, where Goffstown's submitting 60 signatures. It's going to take some time, but they're under a lot of pressure. That petition that I forwarded you for information was filed by CLF. It's not directly related to us here. However, what CLF is asking EPA to do, it's called Residual Designation Authority, and they are petitioning EPA to take over Residual Designation Authority for all of New England on commercial, industrial, and large institution sites. So college campuses, shopping malls. And what that does is it takes land use authority away from communities, and EPA would have direct say in how those sites get developed, how they comply with water quality regulations. So, and that RDA is not just here, it's happening kind of across the country. All the environmental organizations are kind of pushing that. It ties to this because EPA has the legal authority to do the same thing with our MS4. They could just say, okay, you know what, you guys aren't, it's too difficult to work with you, so we're just taking over. And it would take away our local land use decision-making ability. So that petition that I sent you is significant in that it certainly could have a huge impact on a large chunk of our tax base. It could have a huge impact on our future development rights. And that same legal theory could apply to this MS4 and then be directly in conflict with how we manage this permit. So that's a very, very complicated thing that I don't fully understand, but obviously that's going to be part of our legal thing as well. Just glancing at this letter, it looks like I hit a lot of the major points.
Street sweeping,
Yeah, that's where, I hate to say it, but the folks that wrote this permit have never operated a street sweeper. They don't know about street sweeping. And that's why it's really important. Once August 15th comes, we sit down with the permit writers, and you got an idea like that, come talk to us before you put it in the permit. 'Cause a mechanical sweeper just won't do it, and their response was, well, just use vacuum sweepers. Well, okay, how much is it going to cost all communities to convert to vacuum sweepers? And by the way, vacuum sweepers are twice as slow, and can't pick up the heavy-duty stuff that you pick up in a spring sweep. So it's really not a practical thing for them to ask for.
And why do they want you to use the vacuum ones versus the
Well,
mechanical?
they put a requirement in. Right now, we sweep all of our curbed areas in town where we have a curb and gutter twice a year. They want us to sweep every street, even if it's an open ditch line, which a mechanical sweeper can't. It doesn't have the curb to sweep against.
That's
It
really
can't pick up.
pushing over the top, and you come right down to it. It's not even feasible.
Yeah, and some of the small towns that are MS4s don't even have curbing in town, so that they don't have sweepers. They've never had to deal with sweeping. So I set this up only because I think it would carry more weight to be signed by the board. Obviously, we don't have to do anything this week with it, other than wanted to take your questions. If there's anything you think is out of line, I certainly can make some adjustments to it. If there's something I've said over the last several months that I missed, boy, I'm happy to get it. But I had all kinds of notes from various meetings that we tried to pull into this, and I think I've got them all.
And Carl, don't these comments also form the basis for any future appeals?
Yeah,
You have had to comment on it in order to...
that's
appeal
correct.
it?
It lays out, and there are some disputes about that, but the folks that deal with this most closely are adamant that if there's an appeal, the body of evidence that would be presented in the appeal has to be contained in these comments. And that's why it's such an extensive review.
And that could take a very long time also.
Yeah. There are significant budget impacts. I'm working on that now. We did a lot of it when, as we went through these comments. When exactly this takes effect, we don't know. In 2008, they put a draft permit out. We commented. We didn't see anything until 2013. I can't imagine. They're under a lot of pressure because we're operating under a 2003 permit, so they're under a lot of pressure to get a permit out there. So I can't imagine them taking years to do it. But everybody, it really is a guessing game as to how quickly they'll turn around the response to comments and issue a permit. I know that they're being pushed to issue a permit.
So you need to get this signed, not this week, we'll wait.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate, just this week. If you have any questions, comments, just let me know. There is a couple typos that we have found, since I put it in your packet, so we need to clean up a couple little things, but nothing major. And then next week, maybe the board can take action on it and get it off to Boston.
Okay. Any other questions on this one?
No. Oh, good. It's gonna be long, drawn out, I can see it.
Thank you, that's very comprehensive.
A lot of information to digest.
The next item that you had is, in your packet, I believe, you have easements and licenses for the Pleasant Street project.
Yep.
I think they're all fairly straightforward, but if you have any questions, happy to answer them. There's really only two easements, both to try to straighten out water issues that come out into the sidewalk and the road, and for the most part, they're the drainage licenses for sump pumps tying into the drainage system and the like.
Yep, go ahead.
Quick question. Carl, on the drainage easements and the temporary construction licenses, where it says in consideration of $1 and other valuable consideration paid, are there any other valuable considerations being given?
They would be spelled out in there. There's one where there's a significant amount of regrading that's going to occur in a field. We are using that field as a storage yard, and when we get done,
You have to
we wanna
restore it back
regrade
to its original.
Well, and we're gonna go a little more because there's a big water problem coming out of that driveway that's been there for years and years and years. There's a drainage structure at the other, a little ways down in the field, so we're gonna regrade the field so the water doesn't come out of the driveway anymore, it goes down to that.
At the area where the ice kept freezing
Yeah.
and making the ice.
Yeah, so, the dollar and other valuable considerations is, we're gonna regrade the field so that it won't be as wet and the water won't be coming out of the driveway, but we see that as a benefit to us, just as much as it's a benefit to the property owner.
And short of that, no other.
No.
I think we already voted on these
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
in
did.
the signature folder.
And the last one is another one of these street opening asphalt situations. Believe you have all of the notes back and forth in the email, and this is just another one of those, our rules are very specific. When we got the request, I did kind of check around and make sure we weren't asking for anything outrageous, and it's a very consistent industry standard sort of thing. So it comes down to a technical analysis, and the idea behind it has to do with differential settlement. Once you cut pavement and once you dig up soil, it's very difficult to restore it to 100% of the strength and condition that was there before. So it really comes down in my mind to, is the 4 inches protective of the taxpayer's investment in the road? I can't really answer that. It all depends what the material under it is, how well it's compacted when it's put back, how well the asphalt binds in the trench. I would be probably okay with accepting it if we had some protection or some surety that, if 3 years from now it failed, the taxpayers weren't gonna.
Don't we
Get
have
stuck
a
with it.
bond on that anyway? A street
We
opening bond?
typically have a 1-year bond, and, usually a patch holds up pretty good for a year. If it doesn't, then there's real problems.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the premature failure of the road which is 3 years, 5 years, who knows how long down the road. So that whole concept I kind of talked about when we were revising a street opening, where if the taxpayers had a way to be made whole in this exchange, so that if the road fails prematurely, it's not coming right out of the taxpayer's pocket to fix it. I think that would be fine, but the way this applicant has laid it out, they're just asking us to accept a degraded road, and yeah, it's gonna be expensive for those folks that are cutting the pavement, but the town didn't cause that. It's not the town's fault that the water went in the way it went in, and that they have problems with their water. So it's a sticky situation. It's not a pleasant one. It's not fun, but unfortunately, that's why we have regulations.
Now, was this an emergency?
Not
'Cause
really.
the road's under moratorium.
Well, the road's not on the moratorium. This is not a moratorium road. It came off, I think, last year. But it's a very good road.
Didn't we just change that?
No, we kept it the same because of we gotta go create the fund, I guess, at next year's town meeting. So the moratorium stays the same. The only thing we changed is they have the ability to come to you all for a waiver. That's what we changed.
I thought we changed everything except the fund.
No.
We didn't
The
change.
old moratorium language stayed the same, and the approach
Gotcha.
stayed the same.
Okay.
So this was not really an emergency. This is, it's one of those situations up there where I think I don't know if there were 10 different little service lines running up the corner of the road. One of them's leaking.
2-inch line went up the road there, servicing all those houses.
Yeah,
Piece of black iron pipe as well.
yeah.
Which was,
So you never know whose it is, and it's all private, and who's gonna pay for it, and, I mean, really a mess. So I think what Manchester Water is doing is, now they're gonna run a public line up to the end of the street, and, of course, everybody has to pay their share of it.
well, the line went 400 and something feet, and I don't believe, did it go any further than that, Carl, or did it stop there?
I honestly don't know,
400 and something feet with a hydrant at the end of it,
yeah,
and that's pretty much the understanding I know of.
right. And the difference is, instead of all the houses tying together on a private line,
Yeah, they're all on that.
they'll all have a new service out to that main.
Go ahead.
I guess my question is, and I think I tried to early before the meeting, get an understanding. If you have 6 inches of pavement, you're removing it, and they're going down 18 inches with gravel, compacting that, and then adding 4 inches. I understand that because you have dissimilar soils next to each other, you could have some heaving. Will that 2 inches make a difference in how it moves back and forth, or is it the fact that there's 18 inches of excavation and compacted gravel next to whatever was there?
I think it's all of the above, you know what I mean? It's a different batch of asphalt, there's a shear face there now, and everything that I know, technically speaking, says it's all gonna contribute to differential settlement. How much is the 4 inches versus 6 inches contributing? I don't know, but in my mind, the applicant is the one asking us to change the rules. It's kinda on them to prove.
It
that
doesn't mean,
it's
it
not
doesn't
gonna
mean
have
if you put 6 inches on a sleeve, it's just all.
No.
Nobody knows.
Exactly right.
No,
So-
doesn't necessarily mean it would, but
But if he does
that's
put-
the rule, so
Oh, yeah.
to back off of it, somebody would have to give me compelling evidence, and, you know, the state does it that, everybody does it that way, and way back to when we started talking about things like that, it was all about differential settlement, and that was the real reasoning for it.
I mean, I reviewed it. I know what I want to do. I mean, how's the rest of the board?
I mean, from the sounds of it, there's no guarantee that if we go 4 inches versus 6,
Yeah,
it's,
exactly. There's nothing, as Carl said, there's nothing, whether you put 4 or 6 inches down. I mean,
and it may not move in the first year, but then it may in
Yeah.
the second year or the
two
third
later.
year.
Well, it will definitely fail before it would have if the trench wasn't cut. I can tell you that without, unequivocally.
It'll
Even
move.
with the 6
It'll
inches?
move.
Yeah. There's just no way to restore a trench, to pre-trench. That's what that whole court case, Manchester and Concord are involved in, is about, is,
now they're going down to do, they're supposed to do a compaction test or something, Carl?
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, that's got to take some of the guesswork out of that settling or moving of the earth, doesn't it?
it does, but, you know, you got a 460-foot long trench, and,
Yeah.
you know, you randomly pick 3, 4, 5 places. There's still a lot that you're not testing. It's just,
Well, that's one other thing about that. You're testing his ditch, you're not testing the actual road, and the road could have a different test showing up on it.
Well, I guess
You know what I mean?
my
It's all-
question is, if what you said, if it, regardless of what they do, that trench is going to fail in 2-3 years, why are then we requiring them to go the extra 2 inches?
it's doing everything we can to preserve it as long as we can. I mean, that's the way the rule is written, is just to try to get as much out of that patch
Before it fails.
as we can, yeah. And again, you know, being a realist, we can't keep people from cutting the pavement forever. I mean,
No, I understand that.
people have to cut the pavement, so there's no getting around it. And I really think that the answer to it is just have people pay a degradation fee so that when the road fails early, it's not.
That's a dead-end street,
the
correct?
taxpayers.
Yeah.
Huh?
This is a dead-end street, we're not getting tremendous traffic up and down it. Delivery
Yeah.
trucks, trash truck,
Right, Libby Street.
it's not like 114, just,
Oh, no, yeah. Yeah, it is one of dead end streets.
I think we could give them a break, I don't know, I mean, I see what you're coming from, but either way, like we say, it's gonna, if it's 6 inches, if it's 10 inches, if it's gonna move sooner or later. We know that, we all know that. It's no secret. Maybe give the people a break on the street, it's the best we could do for them. That would be my suggestion, but,
We originally started out with 6 inches.
Now, quick question, is it 6 inches because of overlays, or it's just, okay, so it's not really,
Yeah, we do a 4-inch, a new road gets a 4-inch
Right,
profile,
right.
and this has had a maintenance overlay, so there's about 6 inches. South Mass, when we dug it up, had something like 11 inches of pavement.
yeah, 3 years of being paid, yeah. Right down all the way.
I don't know enough about roads to have to rely on what your expert
It's just one.
opinion.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that the road will be restored to its original depth of asphalt, which was 6 inches. And when it's completed, it'll be restored back to the 6 inches for the preservation of the road to not have any further issues down the road, so that we can get the best out of that we can get. Anybody want to
I'll
second that?
second that.
Okay. There's a motion and a second by Nick, motion by the chair, vice chair, seconded by Nick, that we restore the road back to its original depth of 6 inches.
And if I can just speak to that, my first gut is to say, it's 4 inches, it saves them 55 tons, but I'm just not comfortable knowing, if in a year or a year and a half it fails,
Then we go back to.
whether it was
then we
cost
go
of the
back-
4 inches or.
Yeah. Then we go back to chasing them and. Any other questions? All right, so the motion's on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. So there'll be 6 inches half on there. I went and took a look at it today. I'm surprised you didn't get any phone calls. There was a horrendous dust storm up there, Carl, today.
Yeah.
I was up there walking and looking, and I said, "You guys gonna do anything about the dust?" "Yeah, we're gonna water it and pack it down." He had a 10-wheeler truck, or he had a big truck loaded with dirt, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, packing that down today.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I hope you do more than that."
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the problem, is we don't have full-time inspection, so
So now, who will get the message to the contracting company? Will that
we can,
you? Okay, you
Yeah,
can take
we
care of
can,
that part? Okay, all right. Thank you very, very much.
anything else? That was all I had on the agenda.
Do we need anything from Carl later on, any,
The only other items on the agenda tonight are new business, old business, and then the committee reports. I don't know who is the representative to the CMAC committee.
Oh, no. Collis.
Call us.
Wallace, yeah.
So I don't know if you'd ask Carl to just provide a quick update of the meeting the other night, but other than that, I don't think.
Sure, I'd be happy to. At the end of the day, the recommendation that the subcommittee made, which were minimal intersection improvements, I'll call them that. It kind of keeps an oval, but a more better defined oval at Pleasant Street, and traffic calming, and the Elm Street, High Street is, there was nothing new that came out of that public hearing. We did set up a meeting with DOT for this Friday, so we will go up and sit down with them. I really don't know if they'll let us amend the scope and look at other options or not. Since the public hearing, some folks have contacted us with some additional options. So I'm kind of going into Friday with kind of an open mind and
Meeting with DOT, Carl, will that be held here or up in Concord?
no, up in Concord.
Concord, okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not a set time. It's going to be, several of us that will be in the meeting are going to be in a board meeting. And then when the board meeting concludes,
They go into that.
we'll move into a different room and have a meeting on CMAC. It'll be sometime late morning on Friday.
I would say, though, that Mike Long did a very good job. It was
Yeah.
a very balanced view of all the options. The residents had good opportunity to speak. I thought it was a well-run meeting.
Yeah. Thanks for all the help getting the screen down. I know several people were involved.
I still don't know how it came down, so I can't help you in the future.
Best laid plans.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
One quick question, Carl. You had mentioned something about the lawyers' comments. I didn't see that in our non-public. Is that something that?
Is that the packet? The big, thick?
Yeah.
It's been scanned, it's on the drive, and I believe we also have one paper copy. It may still be up in Sue's office, I can check after.
So it's on our drive?
It is on
Okay,
your drive.
great. That's all I was asking.
I think there's a book on their table.
I think, yeah, I thought that
Still there.
it
Okay.
should be on your table, so.
If you think my comment letter was bad, you
Read
should
that.
read 40 pages with legal sites and case law, and that's a real.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to, we're a little bit early here, 7:30, the selectmen's discussion under new business. Anybody have any new business to bring forth to the board?
Nothing here.
Old business?
Just an update on where we are with department head evaluations.
I believe you'll be starting those not next week, but the week after. Next week, we'll be looking for a non-meeting to meet with the fire chief at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, right.
To discuss CBA.
And we're also doing the dedication for the POW MIA honor chair at 6:15.
Next week.
Okay, for
Next week.
6:15.
When is that?
Next Monday,
Next Monday.
at 6:15, yeah.
Any other old business? Committee reports?
We had sewer.
Yep.
I didn't have sewer.
Didn't have sewer? No.
We had sewer.
I believe that is the chair.
Collins.
Yeah.
I
I'm
believe
not
it's
sure.
Chairman Adams.
So Plan of Pinardville, we had that meeting. We had it here, it was well attended by a large number of people
Small meeting.
from Pinardville, all around town. A lot of discussion, a lot of questions and concerns that were brought up regarding some of the drafts and some of the layouts of the Plan of Pinardville, Plaza, as you ever, however you say it, as to what effects it will have on the Pinardville itself, with, you know, the smart plan being brought out, things like that. Comments were said probably, we had comments for almost an hour from people that were very concerned with housing, with HUD, with the number of things that were mentioned. We're waiting to get the smart rules or the smart plans.
Smart code.
Smart code. We're waiting to get that out. That should be out shortly for a review for us. And that was pretty much it. Meeting lasted,
About 8:30.
yeah, it was 8:30 or so. It was like I said, it was a well-attended meeting. It was a good meeting that was, that was brought out. A lot of very valid concerns were brought forth. The people that complained or had comments, their concerns were listened to by the board. I know the Board of Selectmen, we're going to work on that. We're still, we're in the preliminary plans of that. We need to see the rules and regulations and stuff like that. But it's, we're working on it. It's a work in progress, as I'll say it. Nick, you were there, right? Anything, I mean,
No, there were quite a few comments, and
Yep.
there are concerned residents
Yep.
with the plan.
I mean, I guess I'll say it here and say it so that, I mean, we can spend all the time in the world on this plan. Ultimately, it comes down to the people of Pinardville. I mean, they have the final say in the vote. They are the ones that will say yes or no when it comes time to bring the plan forward. And the people of Pinardville speak their piece, so be it. I mean, people have to get out, the people have to get out and vote, the people have to get out and let their comments and concerns be heard. And, I mean, when the voting time comes, that's, when it'll be, I guess that's when it'll happen. But, I mean, for now, everything is in the planning stages. I know it doesn't look very nice. We're gonna try to make some of the plans better. We're gonna try to work to make everybody happy. Whether we do that or not remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. Next meeting is scheduled for August
13th
August-
at 7 p.m.
August 13th at 7 p.m., and that's gonna be here.
Yes.
So we have another meeting scheduled here for that.
And the smart code will be out before then? Or
The
is that
smart code will be up shortly after this meeting.
The 13th?
No, this
Or
one.
oh, today?
Today.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, that's pretty much it. You were there as well. I mean, any other comments? I think I covered it all right.
You covered it well. Yeah. And so the next meeting will be on the 13th, and then there's one also scheduled for the 20th. The 13th is to really discuss the smart code, and then the 20th is the committee's chance is really the end of the 30-day public review period to take the public's comments and decide if they're going to suggest any changes or recommendations to move how we'll proceed to the planning board. So that'll be on the 20th at 7 as well.
And I think that'll be this board's opportunity to weigh in, because really our only opportunity is through our planning board rep.
Correct.
So I think this board needs to be familiar with the plan so that we can give him concrete direction.
CIP?
I was at CIP, excuse me. Derek was in from Town Hall, presented the ADA lift comments. We had some talk about the plan to do this in a two-piece version, I guess. Not going to do the whole thing all at once. We're trying to put it in two halves here. And I think that'll probably work. It was a good presentation by Derek. I think all the people involved there felt it was good to go. And we had highway. Kyle came in, pretty much just went back over what he had been on before. And the bridges were a lot better than what we first presumed. He's come to us with a lot of different.
How many bridges did he talk about in his presentation?
Let me go through this and tell you. We got New Boston Road Bridge deck for replacement. We have, and that'll be proposed for 2013. We have Bog Road Bridge deck replacement, 2013. Terrell Hill Road deck replacement, 2013. But they're putting them out. They're not as bad as it was first looked at. Some of these are going to be necessary. They're not as necessary as the codes go here. The big bridge, which was the one that really was Henry Bridge, was, I guess they've looked at it in a different light, and it's not as important as they thought it was first, and they've got some different ideas on it. And more the abutments are what the problem is than the bridge itself. So we're going to look into a different area.
Now, were those 2013 replacement or 2014? Terrell Hill and
Well,
Bog Road.
he's got first proposed here, 2014.
Okay.
So he's not really proposing here now this year, so. And so a lot of the older bridges are in really good shape. They're not, the bridges that were in the 30s, standing up well, so. That's what we got from CIP. The short meeting wasn't real long.
I know Dropdown Highway does an awesome job on a lot of things, but I mean, I think myself, maybe when it comes time for the bridges, we look
Higher out.
outside of the, you know, the DPW and, you know, Carl has a lot of work to do, and if the bridges are as bad as they say they are,
I think we should look outside that too, because if we have somebody to fall back on, instead of just the taxpayer being thrown underneath the bus, so to speak, let's put somebody in that does it every day, and that's it, what they do, and you can back into it and say, okay, guys, what's your, you know, your best opinion? Can you just redeck here, or can we?
and they may, I mean,
A lot of new stuff being made, a lot of new products out there that are just, you know, precast and whatnot. It's just quick, easy, and simple, and it's long-lasting.
yeah, but, I mean,
So
it may
hopefully
take,
head that way.
it may take Carl 3 or 4 weeks to do a one bridge or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
where,
Yeah, we don't need to be doing that. That's,
where the other contractors come in, they could do a bridge in a week to 10
Yep,
days or
yep.
whatever, you know, I mean, it's just, it's a thought for later on down the road that when and if this does, you know, come to light for the board, that we possibly look.
that's right. The construction company would do 3 bridges in a time. They'll do 1.
Correct.
Right? And, you know, the flow of traffic will change. It'll
Yeah.
expedite it.
Outsource it to, you know,
Absolutely.
see if we can, you know, get something a little bit better outside, so. That's pretty much it. We're a little early. It's a little after 7:30. We have people here for comment, public comment. I presume everybody in the audience is for public comment tonight? Okay, all right. Are you prepared to start? If you like, I mean, I'll bring you up and you can start now and we'll go from there. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
Come on up.
I think I've become a familiar face in this place, huh?
Can you just state your name and your
Yes,
address, please?
It's Katie Benner, and it's 12 Joffrey Street in Penardville. And I would like everything that I say to be put on record as it is said, and all the documents that I submit this evening to be put on record also.
Mm-hmm.
I would appreciate that. First, I would like to start to say that I commend you for all the work that you do as selectmen, because coming to these meetings, I see that you're bombarded with paperwork, and it's not easy to go through all the paperwork and the details, and especially the HUD agreements. You know, you have a lot of agreements that you have to read, and it's not always user friendly, so it's not easy. And of course, someone that wants to put something through, sometimes they're like little kids, you know? They come up to you folks and they don't give you all the information. My daughter used to do that all the time. You know, she'd just give me some of the basics, but not all the details. And, you know, sometimes they ask, the kids ask mommy instead of daddy, or vice versa. So it's not easy. And I see a lot of the government shows on TV where the same thing happens sometimes to the governor. You know, you have people that want to pass these rules, but they don't tell them everything, you know, about it. And they have stacks and stacks they have to go through and a time limit. So I do understand, okay? But tonight I'm here to say you folks did approve this plan to move forward, and I'm asking you to please stop it now before it creates any more damages. So please, you have the power to do so, because in our municipal government paperwork, it does say that the selectmen sets policies for the town. So if you sign this and you're moving forward, you can stop it, all right? Because it has created so much hardship. It's got to be common sense here. It's got to stop, all right? And you received my email, I would assume, okay? And I'm not going to give you all the information over the mic here because there's a lot of confidential information. And we don't want a lot of the things that could happen in my email to happen. And it will, all right? Because when you're advertising property, okay, on the Planned Penardville map, okay, you keep saying that's only an idea. It's not really something that the town has to go through with, or the ownership. It's part of a master plan, so it will be an official document. You know, at the last meeting, we did hear that there was a person that lives in Penardville that has, well, I'm going to say the name because it's in public record already, okay? I was very upset to hear that Mr. and Mrs. Cody's Diner is being created. Sometimes I have a hard time saying what I want to say. I'm sorry. I was very upset to learn that because of this map, that Mr. and Mrs. Cody perhaps lost the sale for their diner. I think that is horrible, advertising this on the internet, showing that her parking is going to be taken away, and even part of her residential property in back of her diner, okay, to be taken away. Again, I know you can tell me all what you want to say about it's just an idea, people don't, but this is not a good reflection at all. We're supposed to be for businesses. This plan is neither for residents nor for businesses, so what is it for? And it's a lot of baloney that folks are saying that it's not apartment buildings, because we see the map. What else are big buildings? You know, and if you read into this big HUD agreement, all right, I'll go into that as I'm going through my list. Okay, it does say that if you get into this agreement, HUD rules, all right, I'll have the pages, okay, and I'll give you copies, HUD rules, and you have to do what HUD says, and one of the things that HUD says is you have to build workforce housing, and you have to build apartment complexes. And we already had a little taste of that already. I believe we're at what we have to be at, okay? No one has shown me a paper exactly what we have to have in town. You know, I'm not trying to be prejudiced here. Yes, we need a little bit of everything, but you can't bombard Bernardville with stuff that it's going to cost us an arm and a leg and we're going to go bankrupt. I mean, we have a lot of problems as it is right now. Shaw's is going out of business. They're going to be laying off 84 people. You know, that's bad. We have a lot of work that needs to be done to the schools, 14-point-something million. We lost Barton. You know, a lot of businesses have gone out of business. I mean, you know, you keep doing things that's going to affect us. It's not going to make the situation better. It's going to make it worse. So first of all, I'm asking you, use your power. It can be done. Somehow, some way, there's a loophole where you can stop this now so it does not create any more hardships. All right. I also came up with a petition, and I gave a copy at Planned Bernardville to Brian, all right. I presented him with a total of 94 signatures. It was on 3 different petitions, but basically one was the simplified version, all right. And 94 signatures. Now I'm giving you this evening copies of that, and I would like signatures from, well, a signature or stamp or something saying that you received that. You keep a copy, I keep a copy. That way I know it's been given to you also. Okay, it's been stamped by Brian, but, you know, what I gave Brian I'm going to give to you. And in addition to that, there's an extra 10 signatures. So altogether now we have, 105 signatures. And we have 10 comments, all right? And I don't know if you want me to go through the comments. Some of them, they're not good. They're all bad comments, okay? And so we'll give you that. So again, there's 2 copies of everything. If you have a stamp, and you can stamp them and give me 1 copy back, okay? And if I wanted to give something to Brian, could I give it to you, Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Okay. These are new signatures, okay? They weren't on the petition from before, so these are 11 new signatures. So again, there's 1 for you and one for me, okay? And I already gave the Selectmen a copy of that. And, okay, a couple of things, okay? I guess the union leader had an article today. I didn't read it. My girlfriend called me and told me that, you know, my name was listed on there. Not everything was said, though, in the union leader, from what I understand, okay? And again, it's getting down to, it's not apartment buildings. Well, again, that's baloney. It is apartment buildings. So no matter, people can yell and scream and say it's not apartment buildings. The pictures are there. What else are big? I mean, what more do you want? You look at the, I will get to the HUD agreement, and it says right in the HUD agreement that that's what happens when you get into a HUD agreement. You have to build apartment buildings. I'll give you a copy of this, okay? This is part of this big package over here. A few pages, okay? It's a HUD agreement that was signed on August 9th, 2012, between New Hampshire Housing and Goffstown. All right, and I just looked through a couple pages. On page 13, okay, it says, okay, the grantee, that's HUD, is, no, the grantee is us. The grantee is in default if 1 or more of the following occurs, okay? So if you fail, there's a failure to meet reporting requirements. So, and that's easy to do. You know, you miss 1 date, you know, you're in big trouble, and they can make you build a whole bunch of houses too. All right, so the grantee says you're in default if you fail to meet a reporting requirement. And also, it says laws and regulations are determined by HUD. So we're going to lose control here, all right? If we give this to HUD, we have no say. As citizens, even probably the selectmen won't have any say, or the planning board, because HUD's going to rule everything. You know, you're better off going to the planning board one case at a time. It keeps you folks employed, right? Okay, than trying to let people do anything they want without coming to the planning board. You know, people have to know on the street what's going on, all right? And it can't be for the benefit of only the landlords or the landowners and a few butters that might make money, okay? It has to be to benefit everybody. There's got to be compromise. We're not going to get everything we want in life, and neither should they. But, you know, if you let everything go through, we're going to have to live with consequences, and that could be doubling our taxes, and I can't afford that, okay? And so I'm going to give you this paper, and it does say that HUD determines that corrective or remedial actions, okay, by the recipients have not been undertaken as instructed. Okay, so if you don't do what they want to do, basically, you're in trouble, and, you know, they can demand for all the money they gave you. They can make you build a whole bunch of houses. And it also says if a dispute concerning a question of fact arises, the grant officer shall prepare a final decision. So again, it's HUD that's going to rule. Okay? The grantee represents, warrants, and certifies to HUD that it shall administer its grant in a manner that affirmatively furthers fair housing. So there you go. It's all about housing. So if anybody says it's not, it's a lot of baloney, because it is. Okay? So that's a paper that I'm going to enter into the formal record, and you can probably note those pages too. I didn't say them out loud, but there are pages there. Also, okay, there's Innovative Land Use Planning Techniques, a handbook for sustainable developments, okay, and this comes from the Department of New Hampshire, and it says DES-NH-Gov. Okay, so this has to do with all zoning and what we're doing here, okay? The ability of government to regulate and limit the extent of development on a property for a valid purpose, for a valid public purpose. So again, the government rules here, and if they think it's for the community's best, they'll make you do it. And also, the government can put a first right of refusal on a deed restriction if you get into this. So, I mean, that can be very complicated, but I surely wouldn't want my property to have a lien on it, and that's what could happen. And also, there's a page 17, okay, that says the ordinances establish a development transfer overlay district, which serves as a receiving area. So that's what they want Bernardville to be, the receiving area. And that's where I live, and I don't want this. And I've never said anything, really, in 30 years. This is the first time, all right? So it's not like I'm a bellyacher like I was told I was, or a complainer. You know, this is my home, and I have just as much right as anybody here to speak up, you know? And I'm speaking up for a lot of people, too, you know? It's not right what you folks want to do here, okay? And also, there's on page 146 of this handbook, it says, in order to qualify as affordable housing under this article, the developer must make a binding commitment that affordable housing units will remain affordable for a period of 30 years. This shall be enforced through a deed restriction. So these are all things that are bad. I mean, you come and do your title search, and you got all sorts of crap on your property, which is not good. So again, these are all pages for you here. Okay, and again, I'm going back to this article that was published in Goffstown today, and people research things before they publish them, you know, and why would we say this if it's not true, all right? Again, Westchester County, New York, accepted a community plan, okay, grant money, and now it's in a battle for its life. Based upon the grant agreement, HUD is now trying to force the county to meet HUD's definition of fair housing by demanding Westchester County change all zoning in every town and build 10,768 affordable homes, okay, at the cost to the Westchester County taxpayer of between $700 million to $1 billion, and that's probably just their share that they have to pitch in for these buildings, and that's not counting, you know, education, roads, and all that. Okay, my daughter just bought a house in Newport, and I see this on the news. I guess it's everywhere, you know. This is an article also regarding New Hampshire Housing's Board of Director recently approved $500,000 loan to support the renovation of Newport Village apartments. And in order for them to get this money, now they have to commit that they're going to continue to make affordable housing for their renters for a minimum of 20 years. That's a long time. That's a big commitment for $500,000. I mean, nowadays, $500,000 is not that much money, not for a town, and they have to make a commitment of 20 years. And the gentleman that just did the plan for us here, okay, he also did the plan for Londonderry. And guess what? Workforce housing plan approved in Londonderry, and that was in the Neighborhood Works site on the web. They now have to build 96 units or 95 units and plus a new road. Okay, this is all workforce housing. All right, so this is another document I want to present. Okay, there are some states that have passed or in the process of passing legislation to stop this. State of Washington, okay, it says Washington and its political subdivisions from adopting and developing environmental and development policies that would infringe or restrict private property rights without due process. Okay, so there's a lot of states. Washington, state of South Dakota, it's a House Bill number 1190 for South Dakota. And there's also House Bill number 42, okay, that has to do with the state of Missouri, and also state of New Mexico, first session of 2013, House Bill 307. Okay, these are all bills against items such as this, okay, that we don't want HUD to rule. We don't want the government to rule, and we don't want the United Nations to rule either, okay? So this, again, I'm going to pass this in. Okay, Mr. Adams, last time I was here, he wanted to see backup on where I was getting my figures on taxes. All right, well, I went to the town's assessment, and again, I made copies for you folks. All right, apartment buildings don't bring in much taxes. 42 Maple Street, don't know who that owns by. I don't think it's government affiliated, but the taxes of that, there's 24 buildings, I mean, there's 24 apartments there. It only brings $1,017, okay, per unit. Again, there's another section of 42 Maple Street, and there's 24 in that apartment building, and that only brings about $1,074 for each apartment unit. All right, the government-affiliated houses, okay, again, an assessment, you just take the figure, you divide it by how many units, that gets you the assessed value, and then as of the last bill, July 1st bill, it was $25.18 per dollar. I think it may be changing now, but this might be, you know, not the latest because they're going through an assessment. But anyhow, I think this is what's on record, and that's what we should go by right now because it hasn't absolutely changed yet. But anyhow, the government-affiliated housing, okay, only brings in $1,309 for real estate taxes per unit, and they're very similar to the townhouses that are on Oakwood Circle and Foxtail Lane, okay, which is less than half a mile, I believe, from these townhouses, maybe a mile at the most. And a townhouse that's similar to these, we said around 1,309, and regular townhouses, they bring in from 2,890 to 3,157. So it could be almost 3 times as much on this case over here, you know, and they're very similar. So government housing gets assessed for at least half, if not more, than regular housing. So it doesn't bring in much tax dollar. Mr. Adams wanted information on this, so I have that to back up. Also, the cost per pupil, okay, I have that, $10,592. I have proof of that. Actually, it's gone up. According to the Department of Education for the state, it's $11,079. And I think some of you on the board had maybe different opinions at the time when this came out. Okay, there's comments here from the minutes of August 13, 2012. Mr. Devanza said that he had heard a lot of comments that weren't so good, okay, about this plan. And Sue had said the carrot for this funding, federal funding, is for projects, okay? And it says perhaps a concentration on concentrating housing, okay? Also, the large parcels we have seem to get more condensed for more efficiency of scale. Housing is going up rather than using more land. So the comment and feedback from the community is a concern. And this is before even the plan went out. You know, people were having concerns about it. And again, it relates to housing. I wasn't even in this discussion, so it couldn't have been me that brought up the housing. It wasn't in this plan already, and it's not favorable. Okay, Vice Chairman Groves commented that it wasn't favorable to Goffstown's goal. And there was also mention about the workforce housing that's there right now on that square. And he says it started out, there was supposed to be an X percentage of residential, okay, but it didn't come out that way, all right? And they were concerned at that time that it would drain our resources. And they also spoke about Agenda 21 in these minutes. And this is in the town record, if anybody wanted to look them up, okay? And I'm presenting you with this too. So we're not the only ones speaking about that. And I guess I've covered pretty much everything else. I mean, I've told you, you know, figures. I've told you that the plan is just an illusion. It's not everybody that wants this, but the wording and such in the plan is such that it seems like everybody wants this, but we don't. Okay, and the affiliated government housing mix and overlay, it's gonna create too much chaos. Okay, anything's gonna go anywhere, which is bad. All right, and there is strings attached when you get into government housing. All right, and I guess that's about all I have to say for today. But now you have my backup at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
What I will do is the paperwork that you handed us this evening, we'll get copies of that, and I guess we'll.
Immediately after the meeting, we can date stamp those.
Yep, that'll be fine. And if you want those back tonight.
Oh, no, I have copies at
You
home.
have-
They're for you folks, okay?
All right, we'll get that out after. Anyone else?
I'm Representative John Burt, and I live at 7 Bay Street.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fine committee members, for allowing me to speak tonight. What I'd like to do is just, some of it's going to be a repeat of what Selectman Capisano's heard, but one item I didn't touch on last time, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you guys. Carol Quorum sat in front of you. It was several months ago, or even could be a year ago as time flies. I like sitting home and I watch the Selectmen's meetings on GTV, and he brought up one thing. What it was is he had to test after rains. He had to test the water coming out of the drainage pipes and stuff, or in the little streams. And he said what happens is if we don't do it, we could be fined up to $17,000 a day. There's many towns that don't have to deal with that. And the reason we do is because we got in bed with the federal government on a program, I'm sure. And that is what caused this possible $17,000 fine per day to the Goffstown taxpayers. So to me, when we look at the government and their programs and they're willing to help us, as they say, we really need to look at the full picture, the real full picture. Because now if we don't test our waters just the way they think that we should, and rules change with them at all the time, we could be fined $17,000 a day. If there's any way that we can get out of that disaster, I would like to see that. The other is that Brian in Tennessee said that, we should trust HUD. And they wouldn't lie to us. HUD's good. Well, that's the same government that also gave us, the Benghazi, that disaster, the IRS spying on Republicans, Tea Parties, the AP Press, even CBS. I was shocked on that one. And many others, listening to our cell phones, the Snowden deal. I'm sure the government's listening to me right now. The Fast and Furious. I mean, there's so many things with the government. So when somebody says, well, you got to trust the government, I mean, there's just so many things that show us that we probably shouldn't. The other is town versus HUD. Mrs. Benner really said a lot on that, so I'll be extremely brief. Bottom line, if Goffstown says, well, we only want 34 workforce housing or low-income housing, whatever you want to call it, yet they say, no, we want 1,000. Who's going to break that tie, according to the contract that I've read, is HUD. They're going to say, no, it's going to be 1,000, and we have no choice. So we really should be looking at that extremely close. Again, just throwing it out there, at the beginning, everything that people say at the beginning, for example, and again, some people think that I'm against rails to trails, and I'm not. But I like using that because it is classic government. At the beginning, they said, oh, we're going to have dandelions out in the woods, and, people are going to be able to enjoy the walks. We're going to have fun times, and it won't cost the taxpayers $1. Well, now it's costing us, and if you get the true numbers, and that's what's hard to get, if you really dig deep, we're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year on rails to trails. They just had Neville down where I live. He was there 3 days. I mean, he isn't working for free, but when you call to get the figure on it, a couple $100. Wow, is that cheap? It doesn't add up. With the meeting the federal guidelines or the state guidelines on workforce housing, they're saying, I don't think we've met them. Well, I really think we have, because the law is very vague. I remember it coming to my committee up to the State House. We fought on this because I was a co-sponsor to get rid of workforce housing in the state of New Hampshire. Unfortunately, the bill died over in the Senate. We passed it in the House, and the Senate killed it. We came real close to winning that because they show that forcing towns to build workforce housing does not work in most states. So a lot of states have got away from it. But our law is extremely vague. We've met workforce housing guidelines. We have a little bit of it here. We've met it. And until the government tells us that, or the state tells us we haven't, we shouldn't be looking at any more. The other is with the public testimony. I don't know if you watched last time, but it was very unprecedented that somebody spoke at public comment, and then Brian from Tennessee was allowed to really debut what she said, and then also 2 board members, basically said, came in and chimed and ripped her testimony apart. I would hope that the selectmen would send a strong message that that is not a way to conduct a hearing or a meeting. So if you could send that, to the chair, and I know, there's so many rules, it's hard to, so I'm not condemning anybody for allowing it. I think she's doing what she thinks is best. I did speak up and then it was corrected, but, to allow that because it is so hard to get the public here to speak. They'll crab to me all day, and they love crabbing to me. Apparently I got a good ear or something because they're chewing on it all the time. But then when I tell them, I say, well, come to the selectmen and talk to them. I can't go in there. I'll freeze. Well, the first time I walked in here, I had a hard time speaking. I was it takes time to get used to you guys, but and not that you're, throwing eggs or anything, but there is an intimidation factor coming in front of a board.
We're not that bad.
Yeah. No, you guys are pretty friendly. But, so if there's any way that you guys could, encourage people to come here, because I know you guys want to hear from the public. And they want to talk to you, but they just don't dare to come in here. So I'm encouraging people all the time. I did say at the last meeting, I was against Plan Pinardville, and I still am. Two things that they want to put in there that would make me feel a little better, and if there's any way you guys could even suggest that it's in there. One is eminent domain, if I'm saying the word right. You know, the only way they're going to get some of these projects done is eminent domain. That's the only way. And bottom line, even if Goffstown says, oh, hey, we aren't going to do that, HUD has the final say. Down in Connecticut, they ripped a bunch of houses down, beautiful homes. People lived there forever. And those homes are gone to build a mall. And guess what? The mall's never been built. The project fell through after the houses were torn down. And who shared all of that tax? So now they removed, say, $500,000 worth of taxes. The rest of the town had to suck that tax in. And the $1 million tax, if that's the number, I'm just throwing those out, that the mall was supposed to pay, never came. So now the taxpayers got screwed on the end of that deal. And so, you know, if there's any way that we can put in there that, you know, we won't take land if this deal goes through by eminent domain. And then the other is there's a lot of concerns from people chewing on me, you know, talking to me about people on the board making a profit off this. They're saying that there's people on the board that shouldn't be there because they're from Manchester or Hooksett or Bedford. You know, why are they on a Goffstown board? Why are they talking, you know, coming up here? And are they going to make a profit? And if they're not going to make a profit, then, you know what, I'll look at it. But from what I'm being told, that there's a possibility some of these board members are going to make a lot of money off this. And finally, what the last one is, and I just can't say it enough, we can do all of what we want locally. The zoning and the planning board, they make variances all the time. They look at the property, they talk to the neighbors, and they go, you know what, we can do this. You know, we want a street light. You know, let's say a store goes up and they want a street light, and the neighbor goes, well, but it might shine in my bedroom. We can put a little blockage there and block that light right out. We can do anything we want. We don't need a guy from Tennessee to come up here and tell us how to live. And we definitely don't need the federal government to jump in bed with. Because with this program right here, you know, we got our socks off, and we're unbuckling the pants to jump in bed with these people. It isn't going to be pretty once we get in there. Yeah, I'm not going to want to bunk up with them. And I hope you guys don't either, because it is just bad if you look at the full picture. Where HUD has 100% final say, the eminent domain, it's the only way it's going to work. We're going to have to force property. It's a bad deal. And then to build all these, you know, 3 or whatever story high complexes they want, because they have the final say of how tall and how big and everything else is. We don't have any say over that. It just won't fit Pinardville. So I want to thank you for your time, and if you really could stretch to the members of that committee to please, you know, look at everything on this and to put eminent domain, that we won't take that, because property rights to me is very, very dear to my heart. You know, it's property rights. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Mark, I think Mr. Wynn wants to make comment.
Yep, good.
I'll take Walt to a side view. Thanks for allowing me a few moments. Bill Wynn, 292 Mass Road, Goffstown. You're probably wondering what the heck I'm going to have to say after everything else could be said. Not too much. I really want to commend the people at Goffstown High School the other night on the Village Road Works item. Boy, did I like that. Got there, met a lot of nice people, almost no negative comments. Everything was displayed out in front of the stage. Members of the community were there, residents, a lot of residents, and they liked what they saw. And during the Q&A period, items were brought up, and there was confirmation by Carl, and I'm trying to think about Mr.
Long, Mike Long.
What was his name?
Mike Long.
Mike Long, that's right. What a great way to present a meeting. And I have to tell you, what a good event that was. So all we needed was cookies and milk, and it would have made it better. It couldn't have been much better. Open and transparent and full. It was really, really nice. So I want to thank all the people on that committee and everybody who did the hard work on it, because it was very, very wholesome. And that one rotary near the library is the toughest answer, and hopefully something will get worked out. Anyway, I don't know what else I can say, but I will say I've tried to find some positive input on this Planned Pinardville item. The only thing I could find is the crayons and the kids back in May. When you try to compare the two presentations, they differ so much, so very much. And the way it's being presented to the community is pretty much stuffed in our direction. Full disclosure is not given. Answers are not provided to the satisfaction that they need to be. And that's the problem. If this particular ad hoc committee was handling things the way things were handled for the village road plan, we'd be further down the track, and I'm sure there'd be some positive things. I can't find anything positive on this. So I'm in tune with Mrs. Brenner. I would like to see this board call it quits. I'd like to see something done to get the people involved, get this ad hoc committee shut down, call Mr. Wright in Tennessee, tell him you're going to hang up on him now. There's more to this that hasn't been said here tonight. It was close, but I will tell you, it would be a really good idea if this whole thing got shut down. We've got a planning board that is very aggressive right now. Been watching it. It wants to get things done. We've got a zoning board that's capable of doing what this plan can do without attachments, strings, or anything. Why can't we do it that way? Why haven't we done it that way? That's my feeling. So in closing, I wouldn't want to be in Brian Rose's seat right now. That man's got the toughest job in this town as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how he comes to work and does what he needs to do. He has got a difficult job. But I really like his resume. He's very well educated. We're good to have a man in this position in this town to be able to handle it. But you know what? With his skills and his knowledge, we have a man that's in this town hall that could really get something done without HUD, without grants, without anything else pushing in our direction from big government. So again, please find a way to shut this whole thing down for a couple of reasons, and then I'll sign off. Number one, it's good if we just do it ourselves. And number two, exposure. Shut it down. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience?
What about the fire department and emergency, like hospitals and stuff?
Can you come up to the mic, please, ma'am?
Oh, I'll go up there. I'm Dee Doucette. I live at 45 Orchard Street. And what they've said touches a lot of the bases, but you didn't consider the fire departments, a hospital, emergency care 24/7. We got a small fire department in Pinardville, and I reckon the one up here is bigger, but still they're miles apart from anywhere. And if you want to put in all these new housings, what's going to happen then? And then you've got the schools, you're going to need more school. And that's all I have to say.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? I guess Catherine will make it 8:10. We'll close the public comment. All the information we've heard tonight, we'll bring it back to the remaining board that wasn't able to make it tonight. We'll sit down, digest it. We'll have time to read it. We'll have time to look at it. Like I said, we have another meeting coming up August 13th and on August 20th. And, I mean, we'll see where it goes from there.
Derek, can we get, can all the board members get copies of the materials that were handed out tonight?
Absolutely, yes.
Could we also get, I know the contract is online, that's posted.
Yes.
Can we get the application, can we get copies of the original application from the town for the grant?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you for the people that came in here tonight, and I think you've made a great presentation. I wish you could have had 50 people here. Stronger numbers, but I think you're doing the right thing.
Oh, we have a lot of reading to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Got a jump down there. I was reading some of this that came in.
Derek, do we need to go under non-public for anything, or are we,
We do not.
No, we're all set, I think.
do we have a business to come before the board?
No? Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Nick,
I'll second that.
seconded by Alan, to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. 8:12 or 8:15, meeting is called to adjourn.